the address was 106 South Sunel Drive in Los Angeles, California, 90033. And it was called the hole. And in Spanish it's el hoyo, because it was like a dip, one like this, and then going up. And we lived right in that neighborhood.
When did you first notice the discrimination?
To really see it was in the 3rd grade with Miss Toppin. As I said before, she put us against the wall and she started changing our names. Okay, Arturo, Arthur, Rosa, Rose, Juan, John, Ricardo, Richard, all down the line.
Changed their name to English
To
name.
English names, yes.
Did you notice discrimination elsewhere?
And as you get older, you realize what's really going on. You know, as a young kid, you kind of like waver, you're not sure. As you get older, you realize why, you know, you're not allowed to go in certain places. And if you go to certain places, they want to look at you like, oh my God, oh, is he going to steal something? Is he going to rob me or whatever?
Have you ever lived in a white community?
Redland.
So how was that?
It was not nice.
No.
No, it was, in fact, I regret going there, in fact. But I went to University of Redlands, and it was predominantly, you know, Caucasian, white. Police would always just follow you. You'd be walking and they're like right behind you. And stop you sometimes. What are you guys doing here? I said, we go to school over here. Oh yeah, right, you go to school there. We're students here. Oh really? Right. And stuff like that, little hints.
So they don't believe you?
Yeah, they didn't. Sometimes they wouldn't. Even though we walked into the campus, into our dorm, they were still like watching us.
Did you experience any discrimination at your workplaces?
Oh, all the time. Promotion.
Promotion?
They politically, directly, not indirectly, directly telling me that I would never get a full-time job or position, and or if I didn't support them, they were going to go right over me. In other words, they were going to try to get rid of me, for the lack of a better word.
If you don't
If I don't agree with them. And I didn't agree with them. I said, I'm not made that way. I'm sorry. I don't think like you think.
Do you think discrimination affect a person's job performance?
Only if you let it. When you have a job, you do your job. And I don't care if someone doesn't like me, hates me for my race, my culture. If I'm doing a good job, I'm doing my job. And the product of that is like, for example, I taught for 31 and a half years. Is when the students come back with a college degree, high school diploma, citizenship, will come back and say, thank you, teacher. And they've done that more than once.
We feel grateful.
They're grateful because you trusted them and you believed in them. And see, that's the problem with a lot of people today. They don't have anybody that they can say, they trusted me, they believed in me. So I did something. So when someone would come to me, after that, I know they got a bachelor's degree or even an AA from the junior college, and thanked me, that told me something about myself, that I did my job.
Do you think is the discrimination will affect the people's daily life?
I told you, it was, you know, unless you agree with those above you, they will discriminate, and not necessarily because of race, religion, or color of your skin, but politics. They'll make you feel like you're out of line. In other words, you're not following what they want you to do, even though what you're doing or telling them to do is right to change. But they're not changing. So they want to put you down. They want to make sure you don't get to their level. So they'll do everything for example, when I was teaching, they change their work schedule. They'll give you these weird hours that your body cannot take it, especially as you're getting older. Now when you're younger, that's all right. But when you're older, like myself and others, your body just can't take it. It's not there anymore.
Right, because this discrimination will actually affect your workplace performance.
Yeah, of course, definitely. It affects the way that you work because you're stressed. I mean, you're tired. You know, you go to work in the morning, then you have to go to work at night, then you go to work in the afternoon, you work in the morning, all these weird, and it puts stress on your body and your mind, so you're not doing your best.
I remember one of my friends, he a Chinese American, and he told me he used to work on Wall Street. He worked harder than any other people in his office, but he wasn't recognized for it compared to the white people in his office. This lead him get depression and resign.
I understand. I could understand that too, because you give everything, the best, every day. They don't acknowledge. They don't let you know, hey, you're doing a good job. Even though you're doing a good job,
They don't recognize.
they don't care,
Yeah.
because you are a problem to them. See, what happens is you are challenging their authority, so they think, and you're also what happens is that your body at the same time and your mind is stressed.
And
A lot of people, like when I taught, a lot of them got sick. I had friends who died. Good friend, he passed away. He had a brain tumor. And what happened is, first it started really small, and I knew this, but he was being overworked. He had to teach 2 times at night, full load in the morning till 3:30, and then teach 2 nights. And I knew he was sick. I already knew that. But he did it only for 3 years, and after that he couldn't do it. His body just gave out.
so it eventually will affect your
Yeah,
daily life.
it definitely it'll affect your whole system. It affects you.
Which groups do you think are prejudiced?
With all due respect, and I don't mean this for you or for Cindy, I think Asians are the most prejudiced, because the experiences I had with Asians and having Asian girlfriends, Japanese and Korean and Chinese, I found that Caucasians, which is considered white people, had a more acceptable, although not all time, but with Asians it was difficult, at least growing up. Now it's different, but in those days, in the 70s, early 70s, late 60s, it's difficult.
You mean you are not acceptable by
They wouldn't accept me.
Oh,
I mean, I told you what happened. I had one who pulled a gun on me and said, I don't want you ever to see my daughter. And her father just said, I don't want you to see my daughter ever again. And I said, okay.
how did you feel about discrimination?
Well, when I was married to my ex-Chinese wife, every time we went to Monterey Park, there was a place called Mama Dump. We'd hold hands, arm around her, she around mine. We'd walk in, sit down, and all of a sudden we get these looks from other Chinese people like. So what I would do on purpose, I'd give her a kiss in front of everybody. And they would look at me like, oh. We walked down San Gabriel or Arcadia, Temple City, Rosemead. The prejudice that I felt was I knew that they were looking at us, our couple. Okay, she was shorter than me, and I'm taller. She was 5'6", 5'5", around there, and I'm 6'2", and I'm big. She was more petite. So, I'm walking with her, and they would just like look at me like, and give me this stare like, what are you doing? To our women, that's the feeling I got, like, why are you taking our women? So I would tell Julie, I would always say, you know what? If we're going to go somewhere, I don't want to go to Chinatown. I don't want to go to San Gabriel. I'll go to Pasadena. I'll go to areas, Hollywood or anywhere, Westwood. But I'm not going to these Asian communities because I don't like those looks and I don't like the comments. And she would tell me, and they would say something in Mandarin, and I would ask her. I said, what did they just say? Traitor. To her, traitor.
Because
I wasn't Chinese.
Oh.
I didn't care, but it hurt her, and I said, no, it's not worth it. But I experienced that prejudice between cultures a lot, unfortunately.
Today, most Asian are not acceptable by majority. Is that true?
No, I think today Asians honestly have a better foothold than most other people do, and I'll tell you why. Money. China is losing, from what I've read, 10 to 50% of its millionaires. They're leaving the country. They're going to France, England, United States, Canada, because of the number one, the government, and number two, the expenses of the government. And they're leaving. China, from what I read about a month ago, they put a stop on passports leaving the country.
In the movie Hidden Figures, that was based on true story in 1961, and the school was segregated, and even in NASA there was a segregated restroom. In your school, were there any African Americans?
I was lucky. In my elementary schools, there was no signs like for blacks, Hispanics, but I do remember going when I went to Chicago during my high school to get my degree. There were signs along the sidewalk that said no dogs and no Mexicans.
Oh, no Mexicans.
No dogs, no Mexicans. So I couldn't go into the store. I had to go around the back.
So that's white.
That whether white or black or yellow, brown, I didn't know, but I knew that sign warned me that if I trespassed, I was gonna get killed.
Wow.
So I was smart enough to know I'm not going to them. But I did see them.
Okay. So in 1960.
This was about 1969, 68, on there. Give or take 6 months.
Were your schools facilities segregated? No?
No, actually, what was really nice about my high school was that 30% were Mexican, 30% were Japanese, 30% were Chinese, and the rest were a combination of Caucasian, African Americans, and whoever else. So I grew up with that different cultures around me. I mean, I would go to the houses of my friends where I would have to take my shoes off because Chinese and Japanese, I had to walk in. And one time I made a mistake and I walked in with my shoes and the father looked at me and he went, and my friend said, hey man, hey dude, take your shoes off. Huh? Yeah, go back outside. So I did, took my shoes off. And I see the table is short with nothing but pillows. And I'm going, where are your chairs? Stop, just sit down and be quiet. Okay. So I just sat down on the pillow and I saw the father going like this, looking at me, and I'm going, oh shit. Hey man, what did I do wrong? Just be quiet. Then his wife comes out of the kitchen and gives him the food first. And I go, hey man, what's up with that? No. Men get first food. You get second, and then the women.
I didn't know that. So.
It was Japanese family. And he looked at me and he said something in Japanese to his son, and his son retorted and said something to him, and his son told me, he says, you're okay, don't worry about it. But the way they talk, some Japanese people, they give you that harsh, and you're like, oh man, what did I do wrong? Did I step on the rug, or what did I spit, or what? I was only 16 at the time. Then he offered sake. I never drank sake in my life. My friend told me, hey man, just drink it. I said, why? My father just gave it to you. Drink it. I said, what is it? Rice, liquor. Don't worry about it. Just drink it. A little cup. So I drank it. And the father looked at me and went, okay. I said, what do I do now? I said, don't worry. Just follow my lead. And I just followed what he did. I did. And I bowed and we went outside. I said, man, is that the way those in your family? He goes, yeah.
But that was interesting.
Yeah, it was cultural exchange. I did it. It happened with the Chinese, the Japanese, and African Americans. I had all kinds of friends. I was lucky, so I got exposed to different cultures.
Was it difficult or impossible to buy property in areas outside your community?
Yeah, it was. They used to call something called white flight. I don't know if you're familiar with the word white flight. White flight meant that when minorities started to make enough money to buy a house or houses, that white people would move out. And what would happen then is that other people would come in and they would start buying houses, and then the other people would move out. And that's what would happen. And it would either put the prices of houses up or lower the price, depending on the people who moved in.
Was there property ownership discrimination you experienced? So
You mean like owning property or buying property or something like that? Well, I can't say one way or the other because I never bought property. But I do know this, that if you have the money, I didn't care what color you were. They'd give you whatever you want.
that's right. So why are various groups prejudiced against others?
Other groups are prejudiced against others because out of stupidity, ignorance, and fear.
Right.
They don't know the culture. They don't understand that people are different, and they're afraid. Look, as a teacher, let me give you an example. When the Vietnamese people came from after the war in Vietnam in the early 1990s, they had something called the refugee program. And what we got is hundreds of South Vietnamese captains, soldiers, lieutenants from the South Vietnamese Army. Now, when I started getting these students in, I had like 15, 12 students, and some of them would argue because one was from the South Vietnamese and one from North Vietnamese. One was called Viet Cong, the other were not. And so I studied up on it. I read up, I went to the library, I read, and I realized, oh, okay, I get it. And then some students, when I'm walking, would do this to me. They would grab my leg. And I thought, wait a minute. And these are men, not women. I thought, wait a minute, hold on, this is weird. But I studied and I found out that one of the greetings of Vietnamese in those days was to grab your leg as an acknowledgement that you're there. Out of respect. It was respect. It was not an insult. So I accepted that. At the same token, I also realized why they hated each other. One from the north, one from the south. One was communist, the other one was not. And I realized then, okay, I had to respect them. And when they talked to me, both sides respected me, but they didn't respect each other. Until I would tell them, you guys, it's over. The conflict is gone. Shed that fear, get it out of your system, because if not, it's going to kill you. So after a while, it sunk in. But that was my experience with the learning about how do you deal with prejudice and anger and hate and all that. Well, you have to learn about the culture. Just like I learned about Chinese, Japanese. You study, you read, you make yourself aware of who you're talking to. The problem with many of us, we don't take the time to even think or be rational. And that means to be logical, to just think. Just because you did this years ago, I hate you. That doesn't sound that stupid. I don't blame every German American, every German of today for what Hitler did and his people. I don't blame for what Hirohito did, Japanese to the Americans or the Chinese, because today their people didn't do it. Same thing with any white person, whatever it is. I don't blame them. What did they have to do with 100 years ago? Nothing. So their ancestors did that. Yes, it's wrong. It was wrong. It's wrong today. You just stand up and say, you know what? It is. Let's get together and let's work it out. Now, if you hate me, why do you hate me? What have I done to hurt you?
I realized there is a word to describe that, like my nation and my race, the thing we do are right. The thing the other race and the other nation they do are wrong.
Oh, I know what you mean. Nations and governments tend to accuse someone else or make someone else the problem rather than facing the problem themselves. In other words, when you blame someone else, you don't feel so bad. I didn't mean it. I didn't say that. I didn't do that. And so it makes the people or the government feel better because now they're blaming someone else.
Right.
They're taking away. It's like what's happening right now with Trump. What is the Republican? What are they doing? They're blaming. They're not admitting the fact that maybe he did commit a crime. Instead, they're backing up, in my opinion, a fool who's exposing himself constantly by just blah blah and tweeting. You know what I mean? So what happens is unless you speak out against what is not right and have the guts to stand behind the fact that you're wrong, it's going to keep going on. Like in the school when I taught, I mean, there was a lot of politics, a lot of mess going on. And the moment I spoke up and others spoke up, you're targeted. We got to get rid of this guy. You know why? Because you're making sure that people are starting, their eyes are getting open. And what governments and people and individuals do is, if they can leave you, if they can have you to live in darkness, they have the victory. But once you shine the light in the dark, they get angry. See, people live the way they want to live unless they speak up. And that's how you're going to stop it. When people start saying, enough is enough is enough, we're tired. And open their eyes and their minds and their heart and say, you know what? This has got to change.
Personally, I remember when I lived in China, the south of China.
Oh, you have to do it again. We had a ambulance.
Oh, okay.
Wait till it's quiet and then do personally. When you lived in China. You were talking about the northern people moving south.
Right.
I remember.
So personally, I remember when I lived in China, the south China, where it's more developed area, local people, they think the other Chinese, they from the north or from other poor areas. They think the local people, they think they are quite superior,
Right.
because they think
They're better.
right. But it turns out these people are not well educated. Actually, they know nothing about the people from the north. Right. Actually, the people from north, they are better educated. They come to south because they looking for better job or something. But the local people, they just born there and they don't have nothing superior, right? Yeah, that's. Let me think about
No,
it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, ignorance
Right.
is a weapon that people who want to control is what they use. If they can keep you not knowing, they win. But once you become educated and start learning, you realize, uh-oh. They start going, uh-oh. Well, why do you think a lot of leaders who have become aware and try to change things have been killed? John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln. I'm not saying they were pure, good-natured or whatever. That's between them and God. But what I am saying is that once you open your eyes and see the truth, and you start telling people the truth, that's when they get ready to get rid of you. And they find ways to get rid of you. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to kill you. They can destroy you monetarily, or they can destroy you, your character or your reputation. And then you have those that sell out. You know what a sellout is, right? Someone who's so afraid of themselves that they're willing to compromise who they are so that they don't come close to the person who's doing the awakening of the people. And they get scared, so they join up with the other side.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're scared.
Security.
Yeah, because they're scared.
Did you notice any discrimination in the classroom?
Unfortunately, yes. I made a huge mistake. I saw this as I was taking roll, first day of class. In those days, I'm talking about 20 years ago. Their names, at that time we had to write their names. Not like today. But so I came across a name. It looked Japanese. I looked at her, she looked Japanese, and I said, hey, just out of curiosity, I said, are you Japanese? She got angry. Said, I'm Chinese. I said, I'm sorry, but you look Japanese to me. I'm so sorry. I know Chinese people, but you have a Japanese look. High cheekbones, long hair, the typical Japanese look.
Right.
I said, I'm sorry. And the way her legs and her body, she looked Japanese. I said, forgive me, why do you hate Japanese people so much? Manchuria.
The history.
Manchuria. And I said to her, I said, look, it's over. It's gone. Give it up. Why carry that weight that that the other generation had nothing to do with it? And you are a young woman, I think she was 19 at the time. I said, you have a lot of what happens, I said, if you find a Chinese or a Japanese boyfriend with a lot of money, are you going to ignore him? She said, well, I don't know, teacher, what they did in Manchuria. I get it. I understand it. I said, I apologize. I didn't know. Now I know that you're not Japanese. Well, guess what? After that, we got close. I mean, we became friends. I mean, she became very delightful. She was a good student, extremely intelligent. And, but I learned my lesson. Not to assume just because someone looks a certain way that they are who they are or who they are not. That taught me a big lesson. You know, because I also look at Vietnamese, and then some of them look Chinese, and I would say, as if you're from Vietnam, right? Yeah, but I'm Chinese. Okay, so you're Chinese born in Vietnam? Yes. So you're Vietnamese? No, I'm Chinese. Okay, whatever. But I would tell them in this country is where you're born, is who you are. Now, if you want to accept something else, that's a different story.
I remember when I was in Europe, I traveled to Europe, and someone said to me, "Oh, are you Japanese or are you Korean?" I didn't get mad at that.
Yeah, of course.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, same thing.
Because we're Asian, so we look.
Yeah, it's an Asian country. It doesn't matter.
Right. But,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe the history.
Well, some people do get upset because they don't know the fact of the history,
Yeah.
or because they know history, they get upset. But it all depends on who you are. Now you could hold on to that anger and that hate, but what for? Is it worth it? Think about it. I mean, really, is it really that important to stay angry?
Maybe just one or two. No.
Why though? Why?
I don't know.
I mean, okay, you're a married woman, yes?
Right.
Okay. Do your husband always get along? Everything 100%?
No.
There you go. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you still get together because you love each other. And that's what it is. When you start loving instead of hating, that's what I told you earlier. The heart and the mind.
That's because maybe some children, they will talk to hate. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
You
this is
like
a kid, little kid.
Right.
Look at him, it's different. But if you notice children, when you put them together, you can get an Asian, African American, a Hispanic, white, Native American, put them together, guess what?
The same, they're children.
They play.
Right. Even they don't
But they don't
speak
care.
the same language.
They don't see.
Right.
They smile, they laugh, they cry. They're innocent. We, on the other hand, are stupid. That's the truth.
Yeah.
We are. We're very stupid people.
Thank you, Art.
You're very welcome.